The scent of his shampoo lingered on the empty passenger seat. The oven clock glowed 5:17 p.m. My partner's key turned in the lock, a familiar sound that now scraped like a threat. The door swung open. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. My eyes scanned the empty space behind him, my heart a frantic bird against my ribs. Silence. The structured world I had built began to splinter. The quiet of the house was suddenly deafening. My partner, Mark, returned home alone without our 6-year-old son. Lucas was gone. He had kicked him out of our SUV, in a remote area, to teach him a life lesson. I didn't shout. I acted. 2 weeks later, Mark was the one screaming, and I never raised my voice. See, I'm the practical one. I always have been. Project deadlines, schedules to the minute, essentials stocked, utilities paid, meetings kept, partner, kid, home loan, pantry. Everything had a place. If something broke, I didn't fall apart. I fixed it. There was no room for panic in my system. Until that day. The life I'd held together so carefully, it crumbled. Let me back up. I'm Rachel Adams, 34. I live in New Jersey. I work for a company that renovates homes. I love my job. I love before and afters. I love checklists, structure. I have a son, Lucas. He's 6. Kind-hearted, curious, hilarious without even trying. And he used to have a father. Technically, he still does, on paper. His name is Mark. Mark never hit Lucas. He didn't scream, didn't grab him or throw toys. No, Mark parented. That was his word. You don't get it, Rach. A boy needs discipline. He needs to be strong, not a crybaby. And I worked. I was tired. Deep down, I think I wanted to believe someone else had it handled. So I let it happen. It was a Saturday. I was working from home. Project deadline. Contractors. Material estimates. Mark offered to take Lucas to a trampoline park so I could focus. That alone should have been a warning. Mark never offered to do anything solo. Usually it was, "I've got stuff," or "I'm slammed." But that morning, he was practically patting himself on the back. "We'll be back by lunch. Don't worry." "I'm not worried," I said, and I wasn't. Not then. 3 hours later, Mark came home alone. I was at my laptop with headphones on when he walked in. The scent of spilled water mingled with the heat of vinyl seats, creating a sharp reminder of my last moments with Lucas. The silence stretched thick as concrete, echoing with the sting of Mark's silence, a visceral plunge back to that desperate moment. It hit me like a brick when I remembered pulling over. Lucas's trembling lip, that moment crystallized forever. Hearing the SUV door slam, it resonated with finality, as if the universe was judging us. I watched my own taillights fade in the rear view, leaving only the widening emptiness of a 6-year-old boy who had been left behind. That guilt crashed over me, overwhelming and intense, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. What was I doing? Could a moment of discipline really justify abandoning my child? Flashback to that Saturday morning. I thought I was doing everything right. Mark had that strange spark in his eye as he offered to take Lucas to the trampoline park. Typically, he was swamped with work, but that day, it felt almost too good to be true. "Don't worry," he said. Those words echo now, haunting me. 3 hours later, I was still glued to my laptop when Mark walked in. He looked normal, almost too normal, but something was off, like he was holding his breath. "Where's Lucas?" I asked, confusion dripping from my voice. His scratching at the back of his head signaled trouble. "He, ran off," he stammered, his eyes darting. Not the Mark I knew. "What do you mean he ran off?" My heart raced as dread twisted in my gut. I thought I was going to be sick. I pulled over for a second. He got out. I drove away. "You left him," I shouted, disbelief coursing through me. Did he really think that was okay? To teach him a life lesson? Mark insisted it was just a quick time out. 20 minutes, maybe 25, he mumbled. You thought it was fine to leave a 6-year-old alone on the side of the road?" Silence filled the room like a ticking clock. The panic settled in as we raced back to that spot together. Despair wrapped around me as we stood there, on that cracked concrete slab surrounded by overgrown brush. No shelter, no warmth, just emptiness. 6 years. 6. The child I cradled, who filled our lives with laughter, now left standing in a desolate nowhere for a minor mistake. In that moment, I realized how we, as parents, cling to our structured lives, to those neatly scheduled routines. Mark was my stability, a color-coded spreadsheet of a man. But love was messy, chaotic, and it didn't fit neatly into our boxes. Should it? Or is the risk of vulnerability worth every moment of joy and heartache? The scent of rain on city concrete, the distant rustle of a turning leaf. I thought I'd finally found solid ground, someone who didn't lie. We met at a friend's party. He offered to drive me home. No flirting, no charm, just a simple question. "You're from the South, right? I hear the accent. I'm from there too. Want to ride together?" He asked me out. Again. And again. Then he said, "You're practical. I respect that. Let's skip the drama. Move in with me." And like an idiot, I thought, finally, a man who says what he means. At first, it worked. I did small interior redesigns around the city. Mark worked in logistics, warehouses, shipping, endless phone calls with people he barely tolerated. The pay was good. We got by. He wasn't warm, not charming, not fun. He was functional. Checklists, meal prep, the morning gym. He saw a wife as an extension of his own efficiency. Not in a creepy way, just, we're a team. Back then, I thought that was a compliment. When Lucas was born, he said, "I'm not great with kids, but you'll handle it. You're strong." A code for, "This is on you." He showed up at the hospital on day 3. He had a bottle of stretch mark cream. "I figured you could use this." I was too exhausted to throw it at his head. Lucas's first 2 years were me and the grandmas. Mark stuck to his 3 pillars: work, fitness, budget spreadsheets. But then the layoff came. A new manager, budget cuts. He called the guy a corporate clown. Mark was furious, but he pretended he was above it, like it was his choice to leave. For a month, he just loitered, a ghost in our own home. Then, one morning, a shift. He announced, "It's time I stepped up with Lucas, before it's too late." My heart leapt. He's finally showing up. He wants to be a dad, a father. The scene shifts. It's not a warehouse on the phone. It's a sterile office, a therapist's chair. Mark's voice is quiet, measured, but strained. "I provide structure, because the world is chaos." A long pause. The hum of the air conditioner fills the silence. I thought a checklist for love was what she wanted, a project to complete, a system to optimize. He looks down at his hands. I didn't know how to say. I was terrified of failing them. The cold efficiency, the distance. It wasn't a choice, it was a fortress, a wall built brick by brick against the overwhelming noise of life. He wasn't trying to be cruel. He was trying to survive, to be enough. And in that quiet office, the real man is finally seen. The air in the house felt different, sterile. Mark's new mission was fatherhood. Breakfast was a strict regime. Steel-cut oats, no sugar, pulp-free orange juice. "Pulp corrupts the mouthfeel," he'd declare. He bought dinosaur encyclopedias explaining the fierce difference between herbivores and carnivores. Lucas beamed, his small hands tracing the T-Rex. For a moment, I let myself hope. We were a real family. We were okay. Then the rules began. Lucas had to wake at 6:45. Not 6:40, not 6:50. Precision was key. Oversleep? No cartoons. Complain of being tired? Penalty exercises. Make the bed 10 times in a row. Dinner was a silent, rigid affair. Backs straight, no talking. "It's discipline training," Mark stated. "A boy must learn to eat in silence." The scent of our meals turned from nourishment to tension. I tried to push back. "Don't you think that's a little much?" "You're just too soft," he'd counter. "He'll grow up weak. We must toughen him now. He's 4, the perfect age to start." One afternoon, I came home early. The scene stopped me cold. Lucas stood rigid in the corner, his small frame facing the wall. Mark lounged on the sofa, scrolling his phone. The room was heavy with injustice. "What's going on?" "He talked during dinner." Mark didn't look up. "So now he's got 20 minutes in the corner." "20? Why 20? 1 minute for every outrageous act of disrespect." I said nothing. I made tea. But something inside me fractured. I was the practical partner. I didn't start fights. I kept the peace. Every week, a new life lesson. Today's character building. Lucas stood alone in the hallway for 5 minutes. To teach independence. Today's impulse control. He couldn't touch a toy until he sorted every Lego by color. Today's patience. A plate of cold broccoli. He doesn't get up until he finishes. Life isn't always warm. When I argued, Mark's voice would drip with disdain. "Do you want him to be a whiny little snowflake? I want him to be a normal kid." He'd roll his eyes. "Women have no tolerance for real discipline." The urge to slap him flashed through me, hot and sharp, but I swallowed it. For Lucas, I thought it was better to be a calm mom than a dramatic one. Right? Then came the winter. Lucas was 5. Snow blanketed our New Jersey suburb. Mark decided it was time to teach our son how to sled. He pulled the old sled out of the garage, bundled Lucas into his snowsuit, and said, "We're going to the school hill. He's not a baby anymore. Time to learn." I nodded. Dad and son, snow, sledding, memories. Cute, right? You know. About 20 minutes later, I grabbed my coat and went to check on them. I hadn't even reached the hill when I heard Mark yelling, his voice echoing like he was trying to train a military recruit. "Carry it yourself. It's your sled, so you carry it." I turned the corner and saw Lucas dragging it behind him, tripping through the snow. His cheeks were bright red, hands stiff and raw, his breath short and panicked. "I'm tired." "Tired? What are you, a little girl? Pull it like a man." "Daddy," I said, "move." I started walking faster. The sled was huge, way too heavy for a 5-year-old. I grabbed it without saying a word, Mark muttered. "I've got this." "Not anymore," I said. "This is me handling it now. You're ruining everything again." "No, I'm just not letting you make our kid cry over a sled." I dragged the thing up the hill a few times, and Lucas finally got to ride down. He laughed, like really laughed. Cheeks flushed from joy this time, not from yelling. Mark stood off to the side, arms crossed, sulking like a toddler who lost his turn on the swing set. I ignored him completely. After a few runs, I gave Lucas a big hug, and we headed home. Mark trailed behind us, grumbling about how I was sabotaging his parenting. At home, I made Lucas hot cocoa, then poured myself a large glass of red and told Mark, "Next time, try thinking before you start barking like a drill sergeant." He snorted. "You're raising a wimp, and you're acting like a cartoon villain." I wasn't yelling. I just said it flat, cold, like a line you don't cross because it wasn't sudden. You know, Mark didn't just wake up one day and turn into this controlling caricature. It was slow little things. He started losing his grip on everything else. So, he clung to control. Mark's hand twitched as he paced, justifying his actions to the police. The camera zeroes in on the narrator's trembling hands. The air was thick with tension. A storm gathering just outside, the scent of rain lingering in the atmosphere. Suddenly, it cuts to a vivid memory. A young boy flinches as his father bellows over a spilled glass on a kitchen table. A life lesson? No, it was a haunting cycle of control, an echo of trauma that festered silently. This was the moment the narrator recognizes a truth that had long been buried. Control was Mark's weapon. Control over Lucas, over the chaos of life, over me. I tried pushing back, fighting for clarity amidst the storm. Some days I just surrendered, retreating into endless tasks. Work, utilities, grocery lists. Mark was the father, trying his best. At least that's what I told myself. But that fateful Saturday shattered everything. Until the spilled water, until the empty road, until Mark left our child at the side of the highway, treating him like a discarded bag. Right here, I thought, staring at the crooked bus stop sign. Mark paced in circles by the sign, acting shocked as if he hadn't abandoned our son. When the police arrived, Mark approached them like he was filing a battle report. Calm, collected. I left him for just a minute, he said. But in that minute, a child was left alone on a desolate roadside, the rustling leaves whispering secrets of fear. "Did you ask him to get out voluntarily?" an officer questioned, the words lingering like smoke in the air. "Not exactly," Mark replied. "I just suggested he take a minute to cool off." Cool off? A 6-year-old, vulnerable, and lost. I swelled with emotion, my heart breaking. Tears threatened, but I fought them back. "He was left alone. He's just a child," I pleaded, my voice a tempest of anguish. Eventually, they took our photos, but Mark remained eerily calm. "Yes, I reported it," he confessed, but then the truth dripped out slowly. He hadn't revealed where or that our son had been left behind. And right there, amidst the chaos, I realized, control can be suffocating. And sometimes love manifests in the most twisted ways. He just said, "A child is missing," because, God forbid, he looked like the idiot he actually is. One of the officers stared at him for a long moment and said, "Next time, try full disclosure if you actually want help." 1 hour passed. Then 2, Mark was pacing, hovering, offering to go over it again like he was part of the investigation. I said nothing. I sat on the hood of our SUV and stared at my phone like I could will my son to appear on the screen. After 2 hours, I got the call. A man driving on the highway spotted a child walking alone on the shoulder. No coat, no adults crying, holding an empty water bottle. The man pulled over and brought him to the nearest police station. Lucas didn't give his name, didn't give his address. All he kept saying was, "I'm bad. I made a mess on the seat." The officers didn't know what to make of him. He was clean. No bruises, no cuts, no note, just a lost little boy. They circulated the photo. Someone in our district recognized him and they called me. By the time we arrived, Lucas was sitting in the juvenile room on a plastic chair, feet dangling, bottle clutched in his hand. He looked up when I came in. "Mom." I dropped to my knees beside him. He didn't cry, but his body curled in on itself like he expected me to walk away, too. "You're good, baby. You're not bad," I whispered, brushing his hair back. He wrapped his tiny arms around my neck, held on tight, and didn't let go. Mark stood in the doorway. I didn't even look at him. In the SUV, he tried to talk. I didn't know he wouldn't say his name. He always talks. This isn't about me. This is about him. No, Mark, this is about you. You left a 6-year-old by the road like trash, and now he thinks he deserved it. It was a mistake. No, it was a pattern. A mistake is a one-time thing. You did this to him every day for a year. He went quiet, then asked, "So, what now? You going to press charges?" I looked out the window. "I want you to stay the hell away from us." I drove away from the courthouse, the weight of victory heavy on my chest. But in the rearview mirror, Mark's distorted reflection seemed to shift. His rage. It melted into pure despair. A cold flicker of doubt crept into my mind, a whisper I tried to ignore. Was I truly the hero of this story? Later. My phone buzzed, an email from the child psychologist. The subject line made my heart stall. My thumb hovered over the screen. I took a deep breath and opened it. Lucas had shared something in his session today. something that changed the entire narrative. The truths I held so firmly, they began to twist. Shadows fell over my own intentions. The scent of rain on the pavement outside my window, it felt like a warning. Did I, in my righteous quest for justice, become the villain after all? The next morning, I went to a lawyer. No drama, no debate. I walked in and said, "I need a restraining order and full custody." The child psychologist worked in the same building. We booked the appointment immediately. Lucas didn't resist. For the first time in days, he looked me in the eye. That night, my phone lit up. "Mark, are you seriously dragging this to court? This was just parenting. I overreacted. It's not a crime. You're turning him against me. You destroyed this family. I'll file for custody, too. You left me no choice." I typed one line in reply. "Go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. But you do." 2 weeks later, our first hearing, the judge read the police report. He read the psychologist's notes. He looked at Mark. A temporary no-contact order was issued. Mark stormed out of the courthouse, his voice echoing. "You and him ruined my life." I said quietly, "No." "You did that all by yourself." He kept shouting. I got in my SUV, started the engine, and left. That night, Lucas whispered in the dark, "Is Daddy going to live with us?" I said, "No." He asked, "Will he yell anymore?" I said, "No." He was silent for a moment, the rustle of the sheets. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" We lay there, his small body curled into mine. The city sounds faded outside. One thought circled in my mind. How did I let it go this far? The answer was simple. Fear. I was afraid of being called hysterical. Afraid I was wrong. Afraid he was right. And I was just too soft. But now, I know soft doesn't mean weak. To protect my son, I can be harder than steel. When the school calls midday, your heart always drops. Even if your kid is okay, even if it's routine, you freeze. But this time, I knew something was wrong. Lucas wasn't just quiet lately. He'd started flinching in his sleep again. And I knew exactly where that came from. A few months after everything exploded, the court granted Mark supervised visits with Lucas. Only with a specialist, only in controlled settings. I hesitated, but my lawyer insisted. Refusing could look like I was sabotaging things. So we tried. At the first visit, Lucas clung to me, his small frame trembling. Then, with his jaw set, he stepped into the room where Mark waited. Cameras flashed and a caseworker was present, capturing every moment. Just 8 minutes later, Lucas emerged, his face pale. "I don't want to do that again," he whispered. I felt every fiber of my being ache. Mark insulted him, saying, "You're weak. You don't know how to be a man." The second visit brought a cheap water bottle and a book, How to Be Strong. "He thinks if he becomes a real man, I'll come back," Lucas muttered, his eyes glued to the floor. "But I don't want to be a man. I just want to be me." After the third visit, Lucas didn't sleep. I laid beside him as he trembled. "Mama," he whispered, his voice so small, "is Daddy going to take me again?" That question struck me like lightning. I filed for termination of the visits. That's when the pressure really kicked in. First, Mark's dad called, that calm but twisted voice. "Rachel Adams, come on. Boys need fathers. You're being irrational." The next day, his mom chimed in. "You filled that boy's head with garbage, raising a soft little crybaby." I remained silent, recording every call. Then Mark showed up at Lucas's school. No permission, no warning. He cornered him during recess, whispering. Lucas turned white, dropped his backpack, and ran to the nurse's office, locking the door behind him. I arrived 20 minutes later to find him shaking, holding on to me like I was his lifeline. That night, I rummaged through his backpack and found a crumpled note from Mark. It looked like a threat straight out of a kid's movie. "You don't get to ruin everything, Lucas. You have to listen to your father. Your mom's making you weak. I know you miss me." My heart sank. The contrasts were unbearable. The weight of betrayal crushed me. But that was nothing compared to the fire igniting within me. I would protect him, no matter the cost. If you want me back, be better. Stop acting like a mama's boy. Don't let me down again. Those words echoed in my mind. I took it straight to my attorney. The next day, we filed an emergency motion. The judge reviewed it right away. A full restraining order was granted, not just for Mark, but for his parents, too. Psychological evaluations were ordered for the entire family. Lucas's therapist reported back, highlighting the anxiety and trauma their presence triggered. Finally, I could breathe. Maybe, just maybe, things were looking up. Months rolled by, and I stopped labeling myself as just a mom. I became a shield, fiercely protective. Lucas smiles again. He draws comics, bursting with vibrant colors and wild adventures. The other day, he looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes. "Mom, Daddy can't come anymore, right?" My heart ached with love and relief. "No, sweetheart, he can't." He nodded, accepting the truth without hesitation. We walk together now, sun filtering through tree leaves. The aroma of fresh rain lingers in the air. Lucas hops beside me, our hands clasped tight. With each step, I feel the world shifting. As for Mark, he's lost everything. Crashing at his brother's place, no job, and now restricted from contact with Lucas. Sometimes I see his posts online, rants about traitors, women ruining lives, a stolen child. But honestly, his words don't reach me anymore. I'd spent too long being silent, thinking I was protecting a family. Now, I refuse to be quiet for anyone. So let me ask you this. What would you have done in my shoes? Did I go too far or not far enough? Share your thoughts in the comments. If stories like this resonate with you, subscribe. We have so much more to explore together.